Upon taking a recent trip with our fine arts department to Disneyland, I was part of many great adventures. Jonathan Dellerman, Kate Schaefer, and I, accompanied by a few other friends, traversed a dangerous temple. Tropical plants hung overhead as we dodged poison arrows. As we went further along, we were warned to not step on the tiles with the diamond shape upon them and to not stare into the eye of the idol. Our dangerous adventure ended when we got off the Indiana Jones ride. The next day, Karen Schmidt, Lupe Gonzalez, John, Kate, and I desperately rushed amongst a large crowd to get near the Dixieland band. It wasn't to get near the band, surprisingly, since we're all band nerds. It was so we could take a picture with Princess Tiana from The Princess and the Frog. I had never in my life seen that many high school seniors that excited to see a princess. Later in the day, many of my friends, both female and male, tried on princess crowns asking, "Am I the fairest of them all?" If you couldn't already tell, I'm a huge fan of magic and fairy tales, and I'm fairly certain Miss Morley and Miss Rutledge just rolled their eyes at me. So, as we're about to take our first steps into the adult world, I would like to tell you all a fairy tale of sorts. Once upon a time, there was a noble group of people known as the class of 2011. It was foreseen at birth that they were destined to accomplish great feats. These youths, as all great heroes have, had the guidance of wise sorcerers known as teachers. In my own youth, these magicians were Mrs. Lehman, Mrs. McCarthy, and Mr. Matsushino. As I became older, I was sent under the tutelage of the great conjurers, Mrs. Paca, Mr. Landreth, Mr. Taylor, and Mr. Gaston. Carefully trained and given the skills necessary to succeed, 2011 seniors were sent on a daring quest, high school. They had their fair share of hardships along the way. Wrong paths were taken, there was heartache and betrayal. Evil dragons and frightening monsters arose in order to hinder the path of the class of 2011. In my case, these creatures took the form of math equations and theorems. Luckily for me, a huge Harry Potter fan, Mr. Becker would give me assistance in my math battles, namely offering the class extra credit if they knew the names of the actors from the Harry Potter films. But, as is the destiny of any great hero, the dragons were slayed and the hardships overcome. Daylight broke through darkness and illuminated the pathway for the class of 2011. Safe havens and joy were found. Mine so happened to be history and music, where Mr. Gaston, Mrs. Paca, and Mr. Landreth made the world make sense. Wishes were granted and princesses attended their balls. Knights in shining armor showed their bravery and completed their journeys. And so was the beginning of the class of 2011's tale. To some, such fairy tales are the mindless dribble of early childhood, but I still fervently believe in the magic they possess. Not because of the happy endings and voluminous dresses, alright, maybe a little, but because of the greater reasoning behind them. At times it is difficult to break away from the horrible place the news paints the world to be. Instead of focusing on only the negative, I refuse to give up hope. Misfortunes are common to all. We must acknowledge these disappointments as necessary evils. Struggles are nothing more than the dragons, evil witches, and poisoned apples of fairy tales. It's necessary to realize that good surrounds each of us. If one focuses on evil, only evil will show. As one of my favorite authors, yes, you guessed it, J.K. Rowling said, "We do not need magic to transform our world. We carry all the power we need inside ourselves already. We have the power to imagine better." Our favorite teachers, families, friends, and our own sheer will has instilled in us the magic to thrive. We are the Cinderellas. We are the Prince Charmings. We are the wizards. We are the fairest ones of them all. Not because of our looks or possessions, but because of our ability to create and ultimately change the world. As we embark on the next great chapter in our quest, I ask that you see the world through the eyes of a child being read a bedtime story. Dare to wonder, dare to dream, and dare to imagine. We've all had our once upon a times. We now decide our happily ever afters.